Saskatchewan is joining the list of governments that are happy to protect parental rights. Before we get into this morning, I want to say, hey, it's Friday, and Friday we do live streams every evening at 9:30 Eastern time. Check it out. I have special guest Lauren Southern on the show tonight, and you can join in. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that notification bell. It'll notify you if you forget that you heard this morning. So tune in tonight at 9:30 Eastern time, and well, we'll see you then. Now into this. This was what happened back in June in New Brunswick as they were passing legislation to make sure that parents are informed on what's going on in their schools. This is a short that I put out, and I'll just play this real quick right now.
My daughter in grade 2 can change her name and her gender, not just without my consent, but most importantly, without me even knowing it, to the point that the school would literally deceive me as a parent should I ask to know what's going on.
The province of New Brunswick has passed a new law stating that a child under the age of 16 must have parental consent to identify as another gender. Pierre Poilievre was asked if he supports this.
Our global news. Do you stand with Premier Blaine Higgs on Policy 713?
Look, this is a provincial policy. I know that Justin Trudeau has butted into that. The Prime Minister has no business in decisions that should rest with provinces and parents. So my message to Justin Trudeau is butt out and let provinces run schools and let parents raise kids.
So this was the case back in June, I believe it was, and this is actually what Justin Trudeau had to say on the matter as he was butting into this whole thing.
But unfortunately, as you all know, we don't have to go as far as Uganda to see hateful rhetoric on the rise. We're seeing that angry, hateful rhetoric rise on our continent, particularly targeting trans people. Trans people are among the most vulnerable people in the 2S LGBTQI+ community, facing high rates of violence and suicide. And far-right political actors are trying to outdo themselves with the types of cruelty and isolation they can inflict on these already vulnerable people.
Cruelty and isolation. Cruelty. They're asking people to talk to their parents about this stuff. This is not cruelty. This is saying that parents have a right to know what's happening to their children. And this is a particular social contagion that's happening in our society right now. And yes, parents should know. Teachers have no right to hold this kind of information away from parents who have a lot of responsibilities as parents to protect their children.
Right now, trans kids in New Brunswick are being told they don't have the right to be their true selves, that they need to ask permission. Well, trans kids need to feel safe, not targeted by politicians.
Wait. who's the politician targeting trans kids? This is ridiculous. This is not even in the purview of the Prime Minister of Canada to step in and have anything to say about what goes on in provincial matters. But I know a lot of people are saying that about Pierre Poilievre right now as he called on Trudeau to stop butting in. They say this is a provincial matter, stay out of this. Well, what do you think is happening here? Now the provinces are pushing and moving in this direction, and this is the announcement by Scott Moes this morning. Today I asked the Speaker to recall the Legislative Assembly on Tuesday, October 10th, to pass legislation to protect parents' rights. Our government is extremely dismayed by the judicial overreach of the court blocking the implementation of parental inclusion and consent policy. So this is the court overriding the people's will in this case. So a policy which has strong support of a majority of Saskatchewan residents, in particular Saskatchewan parents. And this actually extends across the board. I'm going to talk about this on an Angus Reid poll that went on. The default position should never be to keep a child's information from their parents. I can't agree with that more. I mean, you'd never get between a bear and its cubs. Why are you pulling this one off? And this is why people all across Canada took the day off on the 20th and pulled their kids out of school to take them down to their whatever city was nearby them. 78, I believe, cities participated in this 1 million person march to protect children. This is moving, and it's people, and I'm telling you, this is people across all cultures, across all creeds and ways of life, religious values. These are parents getting together under all, so many differences between them, and they're all coming together under this one banner. It's in the best interest of children to ensure parents are included in the children's education, in the classroom, and in all important decisions involving their children. That's why our government will take action to ensure the rights of Saskatchewan parents are protected, and that the policy is implemented by recalling the Legislative Assembly and using the notwithstanding clause of the Canadian Constitution to pass legislation to protect parental rights. And this is across the board. Now, this is an Angus Reid Institute did a study asking a vast majority of schools should inform parents if children wish to change their pronouns. Are split over the issue of parental consent. Now, hello, my pronouns are, yeah. This is, well, I'm just going to get to the data here. Now, you can see on this graph, and this goes across all the provinces here, depending on the region. So it went all the way from not sure, I don't know what to say, to all the way to parents must be informed and give consent for this change. Now that was the lion's share of where the votes went. Now some of the people who say parents must be informed, they don't agree that the consent needs to be given, but that parents need to be informed in this case. Now a tiny little minority, and these are the vocal ones, the tiny little minority. Parents should neither be informed nor have a say. It's up to the child. I'm not sure why the not sure can't say is on the top. That's beyond me. I don't even think that should be included in that. Well, in this graph anyway. But they had to include it somewhere. But here we are, this tiny minority of people that believe that parents shouldn't have a say or be informed of what goes on with their child when it comes to pronouns and stuff. But they have to be informed about all these other things. They can't go on a field trip and get on a bus at the age of 17 without a signature. They can't. Why would they be able to do all of this stuff behind a parent's back that concerns their future? We're talking about teachers that want to put kids on hormone blockers, something that would sterilize them well into their adult life and make it so that they won't be able to have children of their own someday. What is the purpose of this? Now, Rosemary Barton, she had a guest on after this happened in June. Now, in this interview, it's so ridiculous to me. It doesn't sound like she's interviewing this person. It sounds like she's being argumentative. Usually in these cases, you would have two pundits, one on each side. She seems to be the other side in this argument. Have a listen.
Do you have a problem with the idea of gender dysphoria?
Problem with it?
Well, my position, Rosemary, is not the issue in that sense. My position as a grandfather and as a father is that I think that kids in especially these vulnerable years in elementary school years, are let's say toddlers being exposed to, well, I may not be a boy or girl. That is the role that parents need to play a role. Those are very formative years, and so how do we ensure that everyone understands what is being presented, what's in the school system, and then we work through it.
Sure, but I guess I'm wondering, Premier, if your personal views are influencing your policy decisions,
Personal
because
views,
it sounds
right?
like they
Yeah.
are.
No, Rosemary, it's not about my personal views at all. It's about a role as a parent and a grandparent, and thinking about my grandchildren now that would be attending school, and the fact that her parents would not know what she was being taught or what information.
Yeah, it's the responsibility of a guardian to know what happens to a child in school. These are again school boards and school teachers stepping outside the boundary of what their purview is of their job. Get involved with a child's education. Stop messing with their sexuality. This is the words sexual and child should never be in the same sentence. That's a warning sign.
Was being supplied, because I think most parents, take for granted that the school system is doing everything that they would approve of. But there's so many things that parents are asked to have their consent on, so many things, and yet gender identity is not one of them.
But do you understand that there are children who would not be comfortable telling their parents that, who would not feel safe having that conversation with their parents? And so school would be the safe place for them to identify in the gender of their choosing.
I do understand that, and that's why our goal is to put a process in place and work with parents and children, teachers and the guidance counselors, the professionals, to help us build a plan in place, a plan that allows for the child to be protected, and a plan that eventually would have parents involved in supporting their children, not alienating the parents and the child, but finding a way to bridge the gaps that exist in maybe they're certainly how they're thinking.
There are critics, as you know, that say that this policy is transphobic.
Yeah, you're that critic. You're that critic. Just admit that, Rosemary Barton. Now, if students don't feel comfortable talking to their parents, if anything, a guidance counselor should be there to help a student overcome that and find the comfortability to talk to their parents. Now, if there's a situation where a parent is abusing a child, yeah, of course, there is the role of a guidance counselor to get involved with police and find a solution for that. Now, what's being conflated here, though, is that not being okay with this whole gender transition for a minor is tantamount to abuse in some way. They won't come out and just say that, but this is what's being equated here. And I would love to have that argument with somebody. Absolutely. Now we have this, when this legislation passed in New Brunswick, a teacher that freaked out on TikTok, and here's what she had to say.
So Blaine Higgs and Bill Hogan did it. Children under the age of 16 in New Brunswick are going to be outed to their parents if they choose to change their pronouns in school. It fucking happened and it went through. It's coming into effect July 1st. I encourage...
So first off, language, miss. You school teacher.
Currently working my way to become a teacher. I only have 2 years left of school, and I'm in New Brunswick. I don't know what to do right now. I don't know if I want to leave this province and go teach somewhere else, because I can't out students.
Okay, so you can't get involved in students' lives and keep secrets from parents. This is really getting to the point where it's ridiculous that you're so emotional that you're willing to leave the province so you can indoctrinate children elsewhere. This is beyond the pale at this point. Now, Justin Trudeau coming in and demonizing the people that went out to these protests in last week on Wednesday. And saying to, like, I'm talking about religious, ethnic minorities and whatnot, they went out to these protests that have genuine concerns, labeling them bigots. Let me be very clear, transphobia, homophobia, and biphobia have no place in this country. We strongly condemn this hate and its manifestations, and we stand in support of the alphabet Canadians across the country. You're valid and you are valued. Now, if you're an adult and you want to do whatever you want to do with your life, you have every right to do that. Nobody's contesting that in Canada. What they are contesting is getting in between a parent and their children. And this includes religious freedoms, which you're trampling on, Mr. Trudeau. Now, aptly, as the Muslim Association of Canada came out in protest against Trudeau's words, Pierre Poilievre came to the aid and said, as the Muslim Association of Canada demands Trudeau retract his inflammatory and divisive comments against concerned parents. I agree. Trudeau should retract, stop dividing, drop his radical agenda, and butt out so parents can raise their kids. I couldn't agree more, and it's good to see that. Now, as I reported on yesterday, this is a video. You can watch the video from yesterday where I talked about teachers berating Muslim students for not participating in Pride, which is actually a sin in their religion. You're telling children to commit sins, and you're getting in the way of their religious freedoms. That is trampling on people's rights. This is a case of actually trampling on people's rights. Now, other people on Twitter are, taking this moment to criticize Scott Moe, and let's consider this criticism. David T.S. Fraser on Twitter says, take a moment to reflect that The Charter of Rights that Premier Moes wants to override, he's saying that he's overriding the Charter of Rights, are the Charter of Rights of Children. Say that out loud. The Charter Rights of Children. Now, what charter rights do children have, and what does this mean for parental guardians? Now, I'll just look at British Columbia law, and this is a family law institute that helps guardians know where their responsibilities are. Let's go down to parental responsibilities. The law says guardians have parental responsibilities for their children. Here are some examples of those parental responsibilities. Making daily decisions for your children, for example, about their meals. Okay, so they're not allowed to choose what meals they have, but you want them to be able to choose the gender that they have behind their parents' backs. Carry out daily chores that come with looking after your children. For example, getting them to school and making sure they have clean clothes. So that it's not the responsibility of the parents to know what the children identify as, but they have to make sure they have clean clothes. Making the big decisions that affect their children, for example, where they go to school, if they go to religious events, and what leisure activities they do. Deciding where your children will live. They're not allowed to decide where they live, but they can decide behind the parents' backs with a teacher. Come on. Deciding who your children will spend time with. This also means which of your friends your children spend time with. So they're not allowed to know who they're allowed to hang out with, or they're not allowed to be in charge of that, but they can be in charge of all these other things. Applying for passports. You cannot apply for a passport, sorry, minors. Getting information from other people about your children. This is an interesting one. For example, speaking to teachers about your children's education. Now, they want to hold that back from parents. Now, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about all of this, because this is just, in my opinion, pretty egregious. The people trying to get in between a bear and its cubs. You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. So let me know what you think. And don't forget to tune in tonight at 9:30 p.m. Pacific. Sorry, Eastern time. It's 6:30 Pacific. Live stream. Again, guest Lauren Southern tonight. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So tune in and we'll see you then. Keep on trucking.